Canada will soon play Trinidad and Tobago in a crucial match to see who will qualify for the 2024 Copa America. Now this match by itself has such importance surrounding it, and if you don't believe me, we are about to go on two very different paths. The first one we are going to go on is Canada qualifying for the Copa America and all the benefits that come with it. We will then go down a separate path and shows what happens if we don't qualify and all the negativity that will come with it. So first things first, hopefully you guys are excited. If you are, let's go down path number one. Let's start things off by painting a picture. Canada get the job done. They beat Trinidad and Tobago, and they are going to the 2024 Copa America. And with it, some changes could be coming. So let's take a look at the very first positive impact of this match.
To start, there's no better place than the manager search that is currently ongoing with the Canadian men's national team. Something that new CEO and General Secretary Kevin Blue already confirmed. They're continuing to look at all options. And a huge positive impact of winning this game and going to the Copa America is that your list of candidates gets longer. You have a guaranteed Copa America, a guaranteed 2026 World Cup. All of a sudden, you got more guys knocking on the door. It's not just Thierry Henry, who has reportedly thrown his name in the ring. Maybe a guy like a Wilfred Nancy can get tempted. Maybe a guy like Jesse Marsh, gets tempted as well. Heck, maybe one of the big fishes like a Jose Mourinho feels this is the next step, the next chapter in his storied career to come, take those two tournaments and dip his toe in international management. So definitely this guaranteed opportunity attracts some top head coaches that might not have otherwise been in the picture.
It's not only the coaches, but it's also the players, because like you mentioned, we get a guaranteed massive tournament in the Copa America and then co-hosting the 2026 World Cup. Dual Nats will want to be a part of this, and it could definitely help in the recruitment process of young players, someone like Jesse Costa, who we know is eligible for Portugal and Canada. He just represented Canada at the U20s, but also some bigger fish. Maybe a Daniel Jebsen could finally look to commit. I know Luc de Fougerolles has been in camp, but he hasn't fully committed and got his first cap yet. So these massive opportunities could come for dual nationals who are looking at major tournaments, and I'm excited to see which ones we could hopefully bring in.
You know what, Josh? Let's shoot for the stars here. Guaranteed Copa America, guaranteed World Cup. Let's get some heavy hitter dual nationals. Why not Luca Koleosho? He's choosing between Italy, US, Nigeria. Why not some guaranteed minutes at Copa America and a World Cup for Canada, a team he's already been in camp with? Come on, let's make it happen.
Shooting for the stars is something we should absolutely do, and I think actually playing massive nations could give us an opportunity to do that, because right now, if we qualify for the 2024 Copa America, we have a decent chance to get out of the group, and we've already scheduled a friendly against the likes of the Netherlands, and who knows who we will play in the tournament that we co-host. And the nice thing is right now, after going 36 years without qualifying for a World Cup, this group has some experience. I know that they went 0-3 at the 2022 World Cup, but they learned a lot throughout that, played some massive teams, 2 semifinalists, a nation like Belgium. These type of matches, when they become a little bit more consistent, I think will be massive leading into some big tournaments.
Man, this would be a heck of a summer for this Canadian men's national team. A Netherlands friendly. There's been rumblings online of a Colombia friendly potentially ahead of the Copa America. Then a group stage of Argentina, Peru, Chile. Maybe you make it out of the knockouts and you get a Brazil, like you mentioned. What a summer that would be. And look, I think this would have a massive knock-on effect heading into that 2026 World Cup, because I think all of these top-tier games, and I think there will be more off the back of this, especially if Canada ends up doing well, is going to help massively for 2026, where Canada's going to be a pot one team. They're going to get a pretty favorable draw, at least compared to 2022, where they had pretty much one of the worst case scenarios in terms of their draw. I think this is going to help them massively potentially get out of their group, because that's obviously the big goal, right? Now it's not just score a goal, it's win games, get out the group. And I think this Copa America can set them up very nicely to be able to do that at an expanded World Cup, I might add, in 2026.
It's a very rare opportunity for a side like Canada to take on the defending world champions, a quality side like Argentina with Messi, the also defending Copa America champions, to open this tournament. It will get a lot of eyeballs on this match, and will get a lot of eyeballs on Canada, which could also potentially lead to some big friendlies. I mean, we just saw Canada get a friendly with the Netherlands, which is the highest profile friendly I've seen in a long time. So imagine a scenario where they impress at the Copa America. They are one of the co-hosts. There's going to be a lot of interest in Canada, United States, Mexico. There could be some massive European clubs that would want to maybe do a gauntlet of games against those three leading up to this upcoming World Cup, which would be nothing but good news for Canada.
Speaking of the eyeballs that will be on Canada, I think that's another big aspect of playing in this Copa America that will, have a huge impact on the program is the effect it will have on the players. As we saw at these big tournaments in the past, this can really vault your status. Look at Tajon Buchanan, how strong Olympic qualifying led to a senior call, and then a strong Gold Cup led to more minutes. And next, he had a great World Cup, and then he's playing for Inter Milan a year later off the back of all of that. These sort of things can snowball. So I'm excited because if Canada can have a big Copa America, some strong individual performances, pretty much anyone not named Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David, who I think everyone in the world knows about at this point, could see their profile increase. I'm just imagining what Stefan Eustáquio, if he can have a massive tournament. Right now he's struggling for minutes at Porto. Who knows, maybe another club like, oh, this guy, we should get him. Maybe he goes to the Premier League, or maybe he goes to, La Liga. Ditto for guys like Alistair Johnson, Ismail Kone, who've already been beneficiaries of the moves. Because, Kone goes to Watford off the back of his World Cup. Alistair Johnson goes to Celtic. There's no reason why those guys can't take another step with moves. Liam Miller, Ike Ugbo doing a job in the Championship. Heck, Theo Corbiano getting a taste of a top 5 league. All of these guys, if they could have a good Copa America. And I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg here, Josh. You know it. There's so many other names we could talk about who could get moves off the back of this. And I think that's super exciting to increase their profile and get them into those bigger clubs.
Those are just the established guys, and like you just pointed out with Buchanan, you never know what type of route a player will take. And if you take a look at some of the players that maybe haven't even broken through with the Canadian men's national team yet, like a Bombito, Dane St. Clair, Matthew Chouanier, Luc de Fougerolles, these type of players will have an opportunity to impress in front of, like we said, a ton of eyes, and you never know what type of performance could really change the trajectory of their career. And some of these players all of a sudden get moved to the Premier League, Serie A, Ligue 1, whatever it may be, that basically boost the ability of the Canadian men's national team. And we've seen it, like the examples you've shown already. Plenty of Canadians were playing at a different level than what they are playing at now. And these major tournaments and the ability to get eyes on them gave them an opportunity to basically break out in Europe. So I'm excited to see what other young talent could come through Major League Soccer, maybe even a Canadian Premier League route, whatever it could be. You never know what a player can do, and this just opens up opportunities.
What's nice is that there's a knock-on effect for this. It's not just the players benefiting, but some of their clubs. And I think what's key is that some clubs in Canada could really benefit from this. To begin, the 3 MLS teams. I think we saw how important it was for Montreal to be able to move on Kone and Johnston for big money after the World Cup. What that meant for them as a developmental program. Of course, Kone, they developed him a bit more. Johnston they traded for, but that still meant a lot for them. I think it's huge because all 3 Canadian MLS teams, for example, could have a hand to play at Copa. Ali Ahmed could be a key piece for Canada out of the Whitecaps, and maybe he ends up netting them a big fee, which helps them down the road. Toronto FC has some youngsters, namely a Kobe Franklin could sneak his way into this Copa America team. Ditto there. Lastly, of course, with Montreal, we mentioned the likes of a Nathan Saliba, Jonathan Sirois. You could keep a Mathieu Chouanier, heck, a Joel Waterman. And speaking of Waterman, that's another aspect too to keep an eye on, is what this could mean for the Canadian Premier League. I really think you look at this squad, there's a chance for a former Canadian Premier League player like a Waterman, maybe a Lucas McNaughton, someone like a Victor Latourie over in Europe gets into this squad, really shines. I think it would be key for the Canadian Premier League to have some of these alumni show that, okay, this league is creating a pathway for guys to go from playing in college, playing semi-professionally, to getting these minutes, going up to the clubs, now playing for the national team, now shining at a Copa America. That can only be good for the league to show that they are creating these sort of pathways.
To also address the elephant in the room, the money. If you're Kevin Blue, you're looking at this opportunity and you are smiling from ear to ear because, like we mentioned, with the interest of the players that are growing, the fan base, a World Cup, Copa America, these friendlies that could potentially come in, imagine what it will mean and the injection of money if you're able to fill BMO, BC Place, and you're playing massive nations across the country. That just means more financial incentives, more sponsorship, more tournament money, and it's a really good opportunity to hopefully take this, money issue with the federation and turn it around.
Lastly, on the pitch, this is a big opportunity for Canada to affirm their status as big dogs of Concacaf with Mexico and the US. They flirted with it. They've showed they can be in and around there. At the moment, it feels like they're slipping away. This is a chance to grab a foothold and show that they belong in that big 3 ahead of the World Cup.
The guys like David, Davies, Eustáquio, Lairn were a big part of the reason why Canada is flirting with that big dog approach. And if they're able to do something special at a Copa America or potentially at home in a 2026 World Cup, it will be unprecedented because they are still so young and they are such a part of the national team right now, and they'll definitely be a part of it in the future.
Yeah, they really have a chance to affirm their status as Canada legends long term, especially heading into that 2026 World Cup. And speaking of, off the back of everything that we explored, we thought we may as well put together a fun projected starting 11 of what things might look like in 2026 in this scenario. To begin, we have Jonathan Sirois in goal. He's now a Ligue 1 goalkeeper off the back of his performances. A back four of Alistair Johnston, Moise Bombito, Luc de Fougerolles, Alphonso Davies. Johnson's in the Premier League, Bombito's in the Bundesliga, Luc de Fougerolles is playing in the Premier League, and Davies is cooking over at Real Madrid. We have a midfield three of Stefan Eustáquio, Ismail Kone, Ali Ahmed. Eustáquio's now in the Premier League. Ismail Kone's over in Serie A, while Ali Ahmed is having fun in the Bundesliga. Meanwhile, we've got a fun front three of Teo Corbianu, who's took advantage of his La Liga move and is still cooking there. You got Jonathan David, finally got his dream move to the Premier League. And you got Luca Koleosho, another Premier League guy there. So quite the team filled with those tier one players that John Herman was once dreaming of, and now is a reality thanks to all this.
All right, Alex, we need to get back down to earth. That was the best case scenario, but now we need to take a look at the other side of the coin. The job obviously is not done yet, so let's just say Canada can't get it done. They lose on pens or get an early red card, and they do not qualify for the Copa America. So immediately when you take a look at this national team and the goal of the 2026 World Cup, you miss out on massive matches. I mean, the Copa America itself, the interest that would gain from the Copa America, playing big friendlies, all of that kind of disappears. Yes, you have the Netherlands match, but I mean, that was meant for the Copa America. All of a sudden, you're back in Concacaf and you're relying on Gold Cups and Nations Leagues, and you're not having that exposure and that experience that is vital to having a run at the 2026 World Cup.
And this is even if they make runs at the Gold Cup and Nations Leagues. Of course, they only made it to the quarterfinals of the last Gold Cup and only the quarterfinals of the last Nations League. So there's no guarantee they get those tests either. Otherwise, a big area is in dual national recruitment because, man, this summer is huge with Copa America, with Euros. There's a lot of youngsters who could potentially represent some nations at both tournaments. And if Canada's not there at the Copa America offering that chance, you could lose a good handful of guys, especially if any youngsters break out between now and then. You know, some of those teams will be looking and wanting to call them in. And I think that would be a huge loss to at least not even be in the race for some of those dual nats.
This is the same formula as Path A. You miss out on dual nationals. You could also miss on some top coaches. If you don't qualify for this tournament, you don't get the exposure, the friendlies, the injection of the money we talked about. You miss out on some big targets. And unfortunately for Canada, that has been an issue with their recruitment right now and the money that is available to them. You might not get plan A. You might not get plan B, D. It might be plan E. We don't know what type of manager will be in charge if you miss out on these type of opportunities. So it's the worst case scenario if that happens.
Meanwhile, on the pitch, this could be really tough for the squad too, because clearly at this moment, this Canadian team, there's a lot of good prospects, a lot of good pieces coming through, but they need time to get embedded before the 2026 World Cup. And you miss out on a chance like this. You end up having to stick with some of your older guard. Some of these new faces don't get a chance. Some of these guys as well who need exposure to potentially move on to the next level don't get it, so they end up regressing or at least staying at the same level at their clubs when they could be making bigger moves off the back of big tournaments. It could really have a negative impact on the squad. And yeah, even if they end up staying at the same level, sometimes in sport where things move so quickly, that feels like regression, and that's scary.
Canada have fought very hard to get in the top three CONCACAF debate. There's even a time where they were called the kings of CONCACAF throughout qualifying. They were doing everything right, but there is a risk right now without remaining in the spotlight and going to a tournament like the Copa America that they could just slide not even down in the top three, but even out of the top four. You have Jamaica, Panama, really talented sides that are pushing them, and having that exposure that Canada would miss out on could really hurt them. On top of that, sides like Jamaica are doing things right, bringing in proper dual nationals, have a good coach installed right now. There's an opportunity for them to really leapfrog Canada and continue pushing it down because those conversations are already happening.
And lastly, and the big point, the scariest point I think of them all that, it's really important to look at is this 2026 World Cup can either be seen as the beginning or the end. Either it can be the beginning of something really special, years of success for this program, the start of something, beautiful, what we've always dreamed of, it could also be the end. It could be the end of a great era, one where, some of these players really stepped up for a couple years. You flirted with being the top in Concacaf. You made a World Cup on your own, but then it just flames out. And I think that's the big risk, that you could end up just going to 2026, running it back. You don't win a game. You go 0 for 9 in your history. And then you just end up looking back on this run of, remember those 4 years? Guys like Kyle Larin, the streets will never forget that run Kyle Larin went on. Or, Jonathan David, Stefan Ustak. And I think that's the big scary point, that this could be the end of the road, where when you look at this team, there's every reason why this should be the beginning of something special, starting with this Trinidad and Tobago match.